or the confirmation of the agenda. There is item to be included as item 13.3 under the closed session and reporting out. Do I have a motion including that? Deputy Reeve Campbell, Councillor Wadden, all in favor? Carried. Disclosure of pecuniary interest, if any. None noted. Moving to the consent agenda. Is there any points that council would like? Okay, Councillor Knott.
Unless I'm really good at projecting myself in two places in the agenda, please note that I was not present at the last council meeting, despite the fact that I am shown as being there. So if you could perhaps have that amended.
Noted. Anything else that? Okay. Councillor Wadden moves the consent agenda. Councillor Seitz seconding. Is there any discussion? All in favor? Carried. No delegations tonight. And moving to the reports. Go to 6.3.1. Pat?
Sure, thank you.
You want to give some background?
Well, yeah, I think we've all had a great year this year with Blythe 140th year-end events, and the committee of volunteers is a subcommittee of the Blythe BIA. And so they held a big kickoff event January 1st. They held their summer event, and then they're holding sort of their year-end wrap-up on December 31st. And in order for them to complete their objectives, they're asking us to waive the fee for the cost of renting the ground, and that is at $136.28. During their event, our facility is already open from 1 till 3 for our public skate. They're asking that we keep it open during their event till 6 for washrooms and such. They're having some fireworks and burning a Christmas tree, right? And just a real community celebration, some dog race. What is it?
Dog sled races.
Thank you. They weren't dog races, they were dog sled races. And our chances for people to watch that. They're not really racing. So it's a wrap up. And you know, when this committee was formed, we really should have started with a memorandum of understanding explaining all of the gives and gets, donations back and forth. That didn't happen. Obviously, it's a go forward action plan to do that, but this time is to wrap up this last event of this committee. So they would like to ask for that to be waived and for council support of their event.
I move approval.
Bill, you're seconding?
No.
Okay. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Carried. Okay. 6.3.2, police station roof. Pat, you want to give some brief background?
Yes, so I'm actually asking council to consider a different recommendation from what is in the report. When the Wednesday night rain hit, the police station leaked heavily in some of the areas, creating a bit of a health and safety issue, as is explained in the report. At that time, we had been working with Smith Pete Roofing on a quote. We spoke to the principal person that we needed to speak to, wasn't available until today. They're not able to take on the work. They're over committed at this point, so they wouldn't be able to show up in the next week or so to do that roof work. So my recommended, did you want me to read this, Richard? Is that okay, or do you want to read the change?
I can read it for you if you like.
Okay.
So that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby approves using the Emergency General Facility funds of $20,000 to repair or replace the south side shingled roof of the Wingham Police Station immediately, and further that due to the urgency of the repair, staff will use the negotiated method to select a competent and available vendor to execute the work.
So just some background on that. Today, we've been reaching out to a couple of different companies for opportunities to do the work. And one had suggested that they would be here tomorrow. That's Ontario Roof Consultants. We've used them on a number of projects. They're a consulting company on roof repairs. They would come on site tomorrow and bring a crew who would be a vendor. Their intent is to come and look to see if we can actually patch some of the worst areas on that roof and get us through the winter, rather than doing a full roof replacement at this time of year, which is difficult with the conditions outside and such. So they want to come and assess that, and then if they can, they would get right on that. If the recommendation is that no, there's no repair work, it needs to come off and be redone, then we would be reaching out to a couple of different options for replacement. But I think if they can come in and do some asphalt repair work, I'm not sure how that looks, but they're the experts and they're coming in to do that. So I guess I'm asking council to release the funding for us to either do a temporary repair to get us to the summer, or replacement, depending on best course of action that staff determine after reaching out to a couple of more vendors on this urgent issue.
Deputy Reeve?
Pat, can we put a limit, and I don't know how to put a limit on how much you can spend on repairs as compared to replacement? You were talking of putting steel on.
Right. So I wouldn't have that answer for you today, having not had them look at the roof, but I think staff have been through a number of roof projects, and we're not certainly going to spend $20,000 on repairing it to turn around and replace it for $20,000 next summer. I'm looking at if we can get this repaired for $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to limp us through. That's the best course of action, and I'm thinking that is what's in the back of my mind as far as a price point that we would be comfortable with. The challenge being that if we want to do a steel roof at this time, we have to find somebody who has it in stock, and it could be a 4 to 6 week wait item. So there's some challenges with replacing it at this time of year that most vendors are saying, oh, but we still are talking to a couple other options. So we're just in that process. I'm not sure if that answers the question well, because I haven't met with this ORC group until tomorrow.
5,000 on repairs is pretty high if you want to replace the roof next summer.
Yes.
That's just my own personal thinking.
Right.
There is a place in Exeter that makes steel. And there's other guys around that have steel sitting in the places too, that might have enough steel to cover too. I don't know.
Right. There's two challenges. One is we could have 2 feet of snow on that roof in the next 2 weeks, and then it's a non-starter, right? We have to get this done right away. So we're exhausting all our options until we have an answer, but I do not want to leave that decision until December 4th when we commence again as a group. But I can confidently say I would pass all approvals through the CAO for a second look at the pricing and options in lieu of council being able to see that.
Councillor Knott?
I'm not in favor of bringing the consultant in. I mean, regardless, we could end up with 2 feet of snow on that roof in 2 weeks, whether we're shingling it or steeling it. And as Deputy Reeve Campbell has stated, spending $5,000 on a consultant when we're looking at then spending another $20,000 later on to replace it. I'm sorry, I just taking that risk that we get it repaired and not have further leaks. I'm not prepared. I'd rather we say we're going to spend $20,000 to replace that, limit on it now. And if it looks like it's going to exceed that, you come back and let us know. But that we proceed to try and find somebody that can replace that roof now and get it done.
Councillor Syke, did you want?
Yeah, so my concern is that this infrastructure is right in the middle of a discussion with regards to OPP costing. So this infrastructure would be inexistent if OPP costing was accepted. So my concern is we put $20,000 or $25,000 of a roof on it, and potentially in 6 months the building is empty with no utilization. I guess the question is that if we can get a repair for 5 now to limp us through to when we make the decision on costing, then establish the true need for the roof repair, full repair, if that is a requirement. I think that to me is a better plan, and I think that's the intention of what Pat's assessment is. I think the assessment of bringing in the consultant is that they're just the consultant that they're bringing person in. Their cost will be included in the $5,000 is what my understanding is, but I could be wrong in that too. But my comment would be is we need to try to tread lightly on spending money in that infrastructure. The fact that it is potentially infrastructure that we may not need. We are going to need it for some time, but not guaranteed at this point.
But I'm going to interject here and questioning a little bit more. Is the structural integrity of the roof okay? Is it just the top? Because I know that 2 years ago, I did my whole house in steel for under $4,000 of materials. And I'm thinking that I used a lot more steel than the south side of the police building would take. And that is a fairly simple one where I had a lot of valleys to take care of. I think this is expensive, looking at this, because in the contractors I've used, I put a lot more steel than this on for well under $4,000.
But I think we're even in due time, and the fact that what she's asking for is the $20,000 was going to be from Smith PP regardless. That was the original request. The fact that she's now going back and now that we can't utilize them, I think the conversation is going to be, the 20 is going to be pulled out to be utilized because there's no budget right now for this particular job. That is where the budget is. So whether it's the 20,000 or we say that you can only have 5, irregardless, she has to have somebody come in to look at the roof. So if the discussion is not giving her 20 but giving her 10, and if something comes back at higher than 10, then the conversation comes back here. But I guess the question is, are we willing to risk another rainstorm like we just had and potentially have further damage if we don't give her the 20 or the fact that she has only the 20, and with the CAO's review, like we could be 2 weeks and then we're in trouble. So I guess that's the question from council, in my mind.
Not to being combative in debate, I definitely want value for our money. Councillor Knott.
Regardless of what happens with OPP costing, we own the building. We will continue to own the building. To start doing patchwork is what we've done in the last 20 years, and that's why we have as many problems as we do. Whether or not we end up spending 20,000, we may be a mute point, but we do need to get. I agree, it's 20,000 is an awful lot of money. I understand too that at the same time, if we go for emergency repairs, contractors will take advantage of us. Period. End of story. But we need to get our quotations in. I do not think spending $4,000 or $5,000 to do a patch repair and find out in January that we didn't do it properly because we didn't find another leak and we're going to end up with more interior damage is just throwing more bad money after bad money. And let's get it fixed as fast as we can properly. Because we will continue to own the building long after OPP costing comes and goes regardless.
Okay, few things to go over. Let me just explain, we're in the assessment process. So you asked, what's the roof construction like and such? So there is a crawl space. So it's a asphalt roof, on top of plywood. Then there is a crawl space, insulation, ceiling, false ceiling. So tomorrow we are crawling in there. They haven't bid it today because we're in an urgent. That was the price produced in June. That was the only price that we had to go on at this time. So I absolutely have more questions than answers for council. I do want to move forward, and if we can get this done within a reasonable budget right away, I would like to issue that work out. And that is my ask of council, and that is why the wording of the recommendation is such, to release the 20,000 out of the reserve and then allow staff to look at options to either replace or repair the roof and bring a competent and available vendor in. We're working on it, but I don't have the answers today. So I'm hoping that we can come to approve this resolution, and if I run into further hiccups and issues, I will be back on December 4th. If that's fair.
I'll move it.
Yolanda seconded.
I have one more question. If you find out tomorrow, Pat, that there's more damage than what you are expecting, we all have emails. Let us know what's going on. And as far as I'm concerned, we own the building. The building is worth absolutely nothing. If the roof is done, it's a tear down job. That's what happened in Belgrade with the old building, the township building that was there. You let the roof go, that's where all your problems will end up. So I'm in favor of repairing the whole building, roof properly.
All those in favor? Carried. Okay, moving to the rural economic development grant application. North Huron Community Improvement Plan. Dwayne, do you want to give background?
Sure. So this is a report from Connie regarding she's seeking permission or approval to make application for the RED program, Rural Economic Development Program. And essentially what she's proposing is to move forward with a community improvement plan. And as is laid out, the program would be about $15,000, subject to 2018 budget deliberations. And of that 15,000, she's looking for 7,500 from the RED program, and she'd be seeking 7,500 from council. In terms of the program itself, the deadline that she maybe mentioned is December the 1st. The next intake for this program is July. And as the report indicates, if council through the 2018 budget process decides that they don't want to proceed with the program and the money in the application is successful, then council can simply decline the funding that they have received, should that be the case. The proposal in terms of the program itself would be coming back to council for approval, subject to the budget approval. And the thinking is to do a facade improvement program that would apply to both Wingham and Blythe. And the intent basically, and an example is, if you have a downtown property owner, let's say, and they want to improve their facade, and they, and improving the facade could be new signage, could be new windows, doors, painting, they go and get a price quote, and the price quote says it's going to cost you $5,000. Through the program, they could apply and be eligible to receive $2,500 towards that improvement. The impetus basically is that if a property owner sees somebody in the downtown improving their property, that they're going to want to get on board and improve their property as well. So there's intended to be a reciprocal effect. But the other piece is to encourage private sector investment in your downtowns. Ideally, if you were to allocate $15,000 to the program, in an ideal world, it's 50 cent dollars. So in an ideal world, for $15,000, you would get a $30,000 investment in your downtown in 2018. In terms of, again, the program, the guidelines, the terms of reference would require council approval. And anybody that applied to the program, the application would be received by staff, reviewed. We would review the application against the criteria that council has established, and then we would bring that application to council for approval, for a refusal or modified partial approval. That's essentially the essence of the community improvement program without going into a lot of detail, but I can certainly do that if council wishes.
Councillor Syke.
I believe this is a similar project that the town of Minto does. They have a facade improvement program along with their heritage as well. The one thing I'd like to incorporate into or thinking that we may want to incorporate into this is accessibility. Because, we do have a lot of downtown businesses that aren't the greatest in accessibility, steps and that type of stuff, and business owners may not. It's not one of the most prioritied money places to put their money, if that English makes any sense. But what I would like is that if we can somehow support accessibility changes in their infrastructure, then that could be a positive for both, one, getting accessibility better in both downtowns, but also helping us get further along our accessibility plan with both benefit of community dollars as well as taxpayer money. So I think to me that's a win-win for both, and I didn't see that, and I thought maybe it would be beneficial to include that as part of that grant or that plan.
You want to go ahead and mention what we discussed earlier?
Yeah, so that did come up earlier in discussions, and essentially that we believe that there'd be certainly support in terms of it. We have the AODA, right, Ontario Accessibility Ontario Disabilities Act. So we certainly see that as, and that's the sort of element that you could build into the community improvement plan. So if somebody came forward with an application and included a component with that, then that would be considered eligible for funding. Essentially, subject to council approval, the property would pay 50% of the cost, and through that program, the municipality would pay the other 50% of the cost.
Councillor Vaughan?
There's reference here to the BRNE projects that took place in William and Blythe. I don't know to what extent that those reports are going to be used directly in this, but I would just caution that those two projects were badly managed. The reports are not in any way valid. So they need to take a fresh look at the situation.
But I think one of the things that for staff and council will be a terms of reference put in as to what projects we're trying to draw forward, and something to do with accessibility would definitely be an advisable one, with refreshing paint or signage, or even some of the components around front windows, etc., that we would be in charge of being able to put those stipulations into the program. Councillor Knott.
I'm going to make the motion that we proceed, because what we're doing here is we're supporting an application, and the final terms of reference and everything will be something that I think that should go to the Economic Development Committee, which we formed, and that's really what it's there for. So there's no point in us discussing it until they review it, and if they decide at that time that they want to walk away, then we let them do it. So I think we just go ahead and I'll make the motion to proceed with the application.
You're seconding?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Campbell seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor? Carried. Okay, 6.72, an assistant to the CAO's position. Dwayne, do you want to give some background?
Sure. So as we're aware, Director of Corporate Services and the Deputy Clerk retired earlier this year, and her duties and responsibilities have been divided out among the existing staff. Very willingly, everyone has pitched in and picked up those responsibilities. And in terms of the human resource responsibilities, they have fallen to the CAO role and the Deputy Clerk role. So essentially, that's a huge component. That was a sizable part of Kathy's job. So basically, among other duties, this position essentially would assist in terms of the collection of the timesheets, the expenses, the vacation, and that. In addition to that, it would be assisting with other day-to-day responsibilities and duties in terms of the execution of my duties, in terms of providing support to allow me to do what it is that I need to do. So what the report is recommending essentially is eliminating the position of the Director of Corporate Services and Deputy Clerk, and replace it essentially with a new permanent full-time assistant to the CAO position, effective January the 1st of 2018. And I'll maybe just mention it does result in a savings to the municipality of about $60,000.
Councillor Say.
I will move.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor of the motion? Carried. Okay. Moving to 7.1 in the correspondence, the on-call provisions of Bill 148. Is there things that council would like to bring forward in relation to how that seems to be progressing? Or questioning how it's progressing?
I guess that's my question. I mean, it seems as if a lot of the issues are being resolved and changing the arrangements, but I'm not too sure to what extent that's correct.
Richard, are you up to speed enough to make comment on the on-call provisions? Or it's just the email you got?
Yeah, just the email for now, that the revisions to the bill are being proposed and will be discussed. So nothing has been set in stone yet, but it is on the radar and being discussed.
It still may be valid to comment in favor of the mono resolution. I'm asking.
We can do anything as that would be one option. I think Councillor Sight.
Yeah, I am all for supporting the town of Mono in regards to the request. It sounds like the government has listened to the fact that municipalities are not going to take the brunt of this fair labor about on call seriously, and hopefully based on their effective change, that it sounds like they are looking to eliminate paid on-call firemen or firefighters, as well as snow removal and that type of stuff based on the email. So I think they're making strides, but I gingerly would wait till something gets passed, but I would be cautious to see what impact. I know it's huge, but I haven't seen a number of what the impact to us would be if they were to change anything from it all to nothing to a little, so we can get a sense of, because we don't know what the government may do between now and then. Like, they've said they're going to eliminate it, but they could put half it back in, or we have no idea. So I guess I would like to, my position, I think we need to support all the municipalities that are saying, we don't think it's a good idea that you're doing this, so that we get it out to them. But also I think we need some information as council to know what the potential impact of this could be, because I think it's astronomical, but I don't know.
James?
I think if you notice on one of the pages there, a submission from AMO and input from municipal leaders made a big impact on these folks. And don't want to be in a hurry to go ahead, because I think there's going to be a lot more changes coming down the tubes to our benefit here. I think we have AMO in there fighting for us now against the government. I think we can see some changes that will come down.
Councillor Knott?
Actually, all of this is Mono is just supporting the Montague letter, which dates back to the beginning of October with regard to this. Now, I haven't seen anything from anybody else, but one township did. I saw their release a week or so ago. And perhaps Chief Ladner can help remind me who it was, but they made an estimate based on their fire capabilities, and it resulted in there would be a 17% increase to the overall taxation. So just that alone was going to push taxes up 17% in the municipality. And I can't remember if that was Cornwall or it was in this end of the province, and perhaps Chief Ladner remembers who that was. But that's the only one I've seen costed out at this point.
Right.
Yeah, so I've only seen these two, I'm just looking at right now, I've only seen these two municipalities apply for this, and it is a significant cost. So you're talking about, let's just say, for rough numbers, if 10 firefighters go to one call that lasts 1 hour, well, that's $26 an hour. Well, can you imagine the minimums on that, and then try to triple that wage? It would be a significant cost. So I could work on some numbers for this council meeting It's, support it, so.
Okay, thank you. The one thing that I was going to make a comment that we have the stipend that covers our regular council meetings, but those extra meetings that we attend, such as committee meetings or where we're representing council at a meeting that's 2 hours or less, that's $60. But over 2 hours, it's the $100. Well, that would automatically mean that pay to council would probably go up approximately 30% in that, because we'd have to be the 3 hours paid at the $100 rate for any calling. So that's how simple it is, that those ramifications were never looked at by those that tried to find some way of, I think, paying those that don't get many hours. But the ramifications are too great, and from so many sides. The county is doing a fairly good study. Dwayne and Richard, with being in contact with the county, will be party to that information. AMO is working strong on it on behalf of all municipalities. So I think we listen, keep ourselves abreast of where it is. For us that are registered to go to Roma the end of January, I actually see this still hanging around as part of the discussion there, and that we are filling out one application to bring the township's point of view on some of the expanded services that some of the new acts are bringing down on us. And the Coles notes, we're not saying it might not be good information, but we can't afford the time and staff hours that it will take to do all that, to be up to speed on what the provincial government is asking for on some of their requests from us, especially in the Safe Communities Act. Okay. I think, anything else on this, or have we beaten it up bad enough?
Do we have a motion?
No.
Unless you want the letter of support.
It's more or less, it's, is there something that we felt strong enough in a motion, or would we just try and discuss and try and keep ourselves abreast of the changes as they come?
That's fine.
Okay. In 7.2, Richard, do you want to take that?
So there was a piece of correspondence received from the Alzheimer's Society of Huron County requesting support for their application to a grant program in project implementing dementia-friendly communities within Huron County. They are requesting support from North Huron in the form of a letter of support and in-kind support by way of providing meeting space and refreshments for training sessions that they would offer to staff, businesses, counselors, and others. So if that is something that council wishes to consider, I do have a draft recommendation that the Council of the Township of North Huron hereby supports the Alzheimer's Society of Huron County in their application to the Ministry of Senior Affairs, Seniors Community Grant Program, and further that the Council of the Township of North Huron supports the request of the Alzheimer's Society of Huron County to partner for a project implementing dementia-friendly communities within Huron County by providing an in-kind donation of meeting space and refreshments for training sessions, and further that the clerk is directed to prepare a letter of support.
But I'll make that a motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay, Councillor Vaughan seconds. Discussion? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Okay. Moving to the Reeves activity report, that I think we had a beneficial meeting a week ago to sort of frame as a little bit towards the budget deliberations. We also had the public meeting where there was some questions asked, and I know that staff and council gave a certain amount of thought to things that were brought forward. A number of us were at Huron Manufacturers Awards Thursday night of last week, and that it is one of those things, if you're not attending those meetings, unfortunately, most of the people in Huron, 95% of the people in Huron County have no idea of at least half of the things that niche entrepreneurs are manufacturing and making for us and many others, including some of them. Most of the business is outside of the country, so that and Wingham Midget Regional Silver Stick Tournament went well. Some very good competition, and most of the games were fairly close, which is nice. So that I'll leave my remarks at that. Is there any remarks from council as to things that they attend on behalf of council, or Deputy Reeve?
I was at the kickoff for the cattle drive for the Salvation Army on Friday at noon, and I brought greetings from the council. They're hoping to raise $20,000 this year here in Wingham. That's a large amount of money for Wingham tourists.
Councillor Vaughan.
I think I should mention the RTO4 meeting. There have been two of these meetings taking place, and there will be a third one later. But it's has to do with the support for uniting the efforts of tourism throughout the area, and particularly the Blythe community, and attaching it and relating it to other parts of for joint promotion and advertising. And the amazing thing was the huge number of people who showed up for these two meetings. They're fairly long meetings and very active, and that they were extremely well planned. At times we wondered, why are we making all these lists and rearranging the lists on the wall and so on? But amazingly, there's some very profound thoughts coming out of these processes, and I think it has led to a very good conclusion in the final meeting that we have. And I'm hoping that it's going to augment the success of this process for our community.
Councillor Knott.
I just want to add to Brock's comment that that next meeting is scheduled for November the 30th. And it is at, I believe, 1:30 till 4 o'clock is the scheduled time to be held at the Cowboy Brewery in July. And that is what it is scheduled for. So I know because I just put it in
Thanks, Bill, that's good.
I just put it in my calendar now before you started to speak. So
Okay, thank you.
it's, should be attended well, I hope.
Okay, if there's nothing else there, 8.3.1, Councillor Knott had brought forward a request for staff to investigate mobile photo radar providers. Do you want to further that request?
Yeah, I'll speak a little bit about this because I had brought one almost a year ago when they first proposed that they were going to bring back photo radar, that we look into it as soon as they had decided they were going to do so. As it appears they will be, although the structure, I'm not sure if it has actually been resolved yet. But one of the reasons for this particular one is that that word had come back that Huron County was investigating purchasing equipment. Back when we attended the meeting in Ottawa, I spoke to 2 providers of photo radar services, both of whom are quite happy to come in and provide equipment services, move your equipment around, and it will be a cost-free project. So I don't really understand why the county is pursuing buying equipment when these people are out here who will provide the service, not for free, but they will provide the equipment, they will move it around, they'll do the necessary traffic studies to help determine where these units should be. And we need to move on this as soon as possible because we have issues both Josephine Street in Wingham and Queen Street in Blythe where we have significant, as far as I'm concerned, traffic problems with large vehicles, especially transport trucks, driving through at excessive rates of speed and creating very dangerous situations. And I don't know how we're going to resolve it because there are very few options available to us. County doesn't want to put a traffic light at Blythe Road and 4 as it is, so I'm not sure they're going to go along with us putting a traffic light at 2 other locations in town, which would be the ultimate answer to slowing down traffic. So I think we need to move on this, and I don't really see that we need to because we do have that ability within the municipality to deal with this, that we move on it. It is something that can be provided. I gave to Larry, I'm not sure that Sean's got them now, he should have, or Dwayne has them, that I gave him the contact names and information from those 2 providers. If you don't have it, ask me and I'm going to provide it again because they're quite willing to come in and speak to us and actually do preliminary studies to explain what they would do. So, but it is something that I think we need to move on and move on quickly. On top of everything, it may also provide a source of revenue. So,
Councillor Singh.
So that was going to be my question, if there is the potential. And the other question I have is that, is this only for the areas in which are county roads? Because therefore, like I guess the mention of Josephine Street's a county road.
Yeah.
So we can put a photo radar all we want on a county road, but you still need approval from the county in order to do it. So I guess my question is that, and I'm fine with the investigating the potential. I just want to understand from a perspective, if we're investigating, it would have to be municipal roads that we are associated to, not the county roads, because obviously we have no authority to do anything on those roads. But correct me if I'm wrong.
That's a gray area. If the portion of the county road within our municipality that it's not, that would be part of this study if we go ahead to do it. Bill?
if you consider it this way, it is in effect, it's no different than the Wingham Police issuing a speeding ticket on Josephine Street. Okay. There are certain things that have not been resolved, partly because the Ontario government has not finalized some things, but it will come, and it will come pretty soon. So as far as that goes, we should be prepared. The problem with radar, when I looked at it initially like a year ago, was that a lot of systems were fixed. Because the problem with that is that, people get used to them, they know they're there, they disappear, and that mobile units, these units they're proposing here can be put on any road, anywhere, anytime. And I mean, if the county wants to get in on the program, these people are more than happy to do a county-wide proposal. So, but it is flexible and it can be moved from municipal roads to county roads. So we wish to put something in front of the school, for instance, because we've got community safety zones and we drop the speed limit to 40 or 30 kilometers an hour. They'll move the units over there and they'll put them in there for a period of time. They handle all ticket processing. They handle everything basically. And it's either done on a percentage basis generally, or it's done on a per ticket basis. And that's how they get paid. So, and they do all the administration, collection, the entire 9 yards. It costs us nothing.
Go ahead.
So if he's not moving it, I will.
That's not intended to. We just got to what you got the discussion. Ask the
I'll
question.
take he moves.
I'll
you
second.
There you go.
And Councillor Vaughn.
I think there are a couple of things we need to consider. One is that it could be months or even years before the province decides to approve photo radar. And in the meantime, I think there are other steps that we could investigate, such as monitoring traffic and to determine how serious the problems are and that sort of thing. And the OPP will follow up on areas where we have a problem of speeding or dangerous driving, and they will patrol on a rather intensive area for a period of time in order to deal with it. The other thing is signage and other sorts of devices to calm traffic. And another area are the crosswalks, which is something that are cropping up here and there, and they're controversial, I know, but some people find them useful. So I think there are a number of areas that we could look at in anticipation of possible photo radar years from now.
Just from my sources, photo radar is a lot closer than anybody realizes. There is a number of cities to counteract people running red lights that their police commissions are pushing hard on the Attorney General's department for it. And that I personally know of a good friend that had the front end of their car taken off in Stratford on Friday, totaled the car, person running a red light. So that there's a lot of, I'll say, the smaller cities are pushing hard for photo radar. I'll be surprised if it isn't solidly in place in less than a year, depending on whether the government changes or not next, what's that, June?
It'll still come.
I believe it'll come anyway. Deputy Reeve?
On our last trip home from Timmins, we came down through Sudbury, and there was a lot of towns already have these signs up, flashing lights on them with your speed, and I'm pretty sure they're photo too. But I don't know if it's something that, and most of them, I was surprised. I didn't see any going up, but I sure saw a lot coming home.
Some of them are photo capable, but they're not hooked up.
That may not be.
Councillor Vaughn?
I remember when photo radar was in effect on 401. I was living in Toronto at the time. was a visible effect on the traffic. It was just amazing how the traffic became much more polite and much more reasonable. I think it really works.
Okay. All in favor of the motion? Carried.
I'm in favor to make it copy.
Hey, just get ready to pay. Okay. So there's no notice of motion. Moving to 10.1, which is bylaw number 74, 2017. You want to read it, Richard?
Sure. Bylaw 74, 2017, being a bylaw to provide for drainage repair works in the township of North Huron in the county of Huron. Sturdy Municipal Drain Branch F 2017 be read a third and final time, signed by the Reeve clerk and be engrossed in the bylaw book.
I'll move that.
Okay, Councillor Slate, Deputy Reeve Campbell, all in favor? Carried. Any announcements? Other business? Okay, everybody knows what 13 on the agenda is. Motion to go in camera, Councillor Slate, Deputy Reeve Campbell. All in favor?